Welcome, welcome. Thank you for clicking on the video. This is qpod 3.0. My name is Kasey. I own Complete Deer Management, and we're going to talk about deer. This deer education is so complex. There are a lot of knowns and unknowns, and there are lots of information out there that is solid information. So I'm going to keep going through this information. Some of the information, if you've listened to these videos before, it could get repetitive. But I have to keep going back to keep remembering, reminding, and building off of different situations. So apologize for that a little bit, but that's kind of the way I got to roll with this. And I'm kind of just laying the groundwork, the basics of what I try to instill into my clients to get a better understanding. Because I've been doing this business for 10 years, but I started this education work in, I believe, 2009-ish with the National Deer Association, former QDMA, deerassociation.com, but they have a deer steward program. Deer Steward program, tons of information about deer, solid information. The Deer Steward program, I believe, is Deer Steward 1 is a lot of online information, presentations, good, solid information. A Deer Steward 2 is when you go somewhere and spend a weekend with those biologists and foresters and deer experts and get more hands-on with information. And then a Deer Steward 3 is kind of your graduation project, if you will. I'm telling you, there's no graduating from this because there's always learning and there's always challenges out there. But it's on your own learning, and the qualifications of it is a long list of things that take you a while to do, from helping other people to timber stand improvements. And so I really encourage you to look through that. And I'm going to kind of the information, again, I'm sharing is learned through a lot through that, a lot through the other universities, other videos, and I try to give credit where credit is due. And then I explain to you, or try to explain to you, how I use those things every day on all the different properties that I manage. My focus as a deer manager, property manager, is to help those people that hire me become successful, whether they hire me to put in just food plots. I also share information with and give suggestions all the time with. Hopefully you watched qpod 2.0, the one before this, and I was talking about some deer biology. What I didn't get to focus on was doe groups. And when there's doe groups on your land and around your property, if the doe groups you see throughout the summer have button bucks with them, obviously offspring, they pretty much can live on their own. Those offspring can pretty much live on their own after they've weaned from milking. But by hunting season, they can pretty much live on their own, but they don't. And I'm telling you what, those deer want to stay where they're born. I mean, don't you? Wouldn't you want to stay where you're born, or the house that you are familiar with? Same thing with the deer. However, when breeding season comes in and the deer start moving around and chasing around, sometimes the doe will go seek or go away from those fawns to get bred again. Other times they kind of do that situation with the deer around them. Now, button bucks can also breed. I don't think it happens very often. Most of the time, it is the older bucks, if there is any in your area, the oldest ones, kind of doing the chasing around and trying to get the breeding done. But it does happen, but it's just a lower percentage. However, after those doe are bred and you go through the winter, come into the spring, when the doe is going to have the new offspring, whether it has doe or bucks, a lot of times those offspring from the year before are with them. Well, especially if there's bucks, if they're male, they will run those deer off. They will run those deer off 1 to 5 miles 75% of the time. I'll try to leave a link so you can check this information out. And again, I'm going to say this probably in every video, is if you have a question or want a question about deer and the information that I say, click into Google search doe offspring, chasing off, immigration or emigration, and also include QDMA or National Deer Association, and you pull up articles that you can read that explains this stuff a whole lot better. I'm no wildlife biologist. Those guys can communicate a lot better. One of the best communicators out there, I believe, is Dr. Grant Woods. He just does a great job of relaying the information, and Dr. Deer does as well. But sometimes a lot of the information can go over my head, and so I'll have to research it, kind of put it in my own terms. And I got a little ADHD going on as well, a deer hunting disease, by the way. But I try to put that in regular terms to explain better, and hopefully I can do a good job of it. So they run these male offspring off 1 to 5 miles away. Could be less, could be more, but it's nature's way of trying to reduce inbreeding, if you will. So that is the main focus of that. Now, you should be getting deer in your area, immigration, by the same token. Properties that are 1 to 5 miles away from you should be bringing in new bucks, but that doesn't always happen, especially if you don't have the habitat that those bucks kind of want to have. The different habitats, does more or less kind of congregate and live around food. They can tolerate humans a lot better. They like it a little bit more open, and they're in groups, and that's how they live. Bucks, for the most part, yes, they'll group up in the winter and in the summer. They'll kind of hang out together, kind of figuring out hierarchy and figuring things out, but then they do break apart and go their separate ways once their antlers harden, and they find their own place to do their breeding in. So what I like to do is try to shoot the oldest doe on the property, oldest deer. Like, I have 20 acres. I usually have 2 to 3 doe groups. I usually have at least one that includes mother, 2 offspring, and maybe usually relation, a doe and a fawn type. So usually between 4 to 7 deer I have in groups, and I try to pick out the oldest one, and especially the one that has a button buck. And if you can take those out of the herd, that offspring, especially if it's a buck, is more likely to stay there in the area that it was born 75% of the time. Again, they want to stay where they're born and where they know. They've lived the first life of their year of their life in that area, and you could possibly raise, if, again, the habitat, they like it, and nothing runs them off, especially other doe. That's what would probably run them off more, is a big sister or some other family group dynamic. But they can stay there, and you can raise them, or at least stay close and keep an eye on them for 3 to 4 years. Okay, I'm going to wrap this quick pod up. Feels like I kind of scrambled a little bit. This complex information is sometimes gets me rattled. That's why I kind of wrote some notes down to try to stay on. So I hope you're out winter scouting right now. One of the most thing I like to do the most is when there is some fresh snow on the ground, go out, walk around, especially your own property, and check those deer trails. They're going to use those, especially if it's harder to navigate with all that snow. They're going to use the trails they travel the most, that are wore down. They're familiar with them. They usually don't go off the beaten path too much, and you can count on them using those throughout deer hunting season. Buck's a little bit different, but you can at least pattern those does. If you can pattern those does, you can get some licking branches that are getting hit regularly. You can count, and you can get a hot doe. You're going to have buck activity. So, hey, thanks for watching this one. I do want to mention, this is a We the People holster I have for my 9mm. I have an affiliate for We the People holsters and a number of other companies. So in the description, I put links to all these companies. And if you go and click them, go shopping, and happen to buy something, I get a small percentage of the sale. So, hey, thanks for watching. Please subscribe again to make sure you can get the newest videos coming out. And I'm going to try to stay in a pattern here, feed off the next video off of this one. So God bless you. God bless troops. God bless America.